Today on Historical Recreations, we will be staining and aging paper for that vintage look. I'm going to be creating three styles for you today to show you the differences between the staining. The first one we're going to be using is instant coffee for a nice coffee effect. The second one we're going to be using is tea bags. The brand I'm using today is Lipton, which is found around the world. And also the third technique, which I find the most easiest and probably the one that you're going to fall in love with, is using Burnt Umber number 925 of any acrylic paint that you can use. You'll be needing a brush, some sheets of A4 paper, and for these two techniques you're going to be needing hot water. With the acrylic paint you'll be using cold water. Are you ready to do this? Let's go. For our first two techniques, you'll be needing some hot water. Be very careful with your hot water. So get enough hot water so we can stain with coffee and tea. With today's tutorial, you'll be needing some bowls to put your instant coffee in one of them, and you'll also be needing to put about 3 tea bags. I would say is a very strong brew for our paper staining. Now, once we get our water heated up, we will pour that in there and we'll see what this looks like. Okay, now we'll pour the water in there. Be very careful. It is hot water, okay? We want to just create kind of a muddy slurry here, okay? With the tea, we're going to let this seep for about 3 to 5 minutes. The first technique, we want to apply a sheet of paper and then pour generously over the paper our instant coffee. And we want to make sure that the coffee coats all sections and areas of the paper. Okay, you can just put that in there and let that just soak up the coffee. Now trying the technique again, using another sheet of A4 paper. Let's now use our tea slurry and see the effects of this color. Using the same technique as I showed you, apply the color. Oh, it was mildly the right temperature now. Make sure you get all of the paper soaked up. And let the paper seep for about a few minutes. For our third technique, I got myself a bowl of cold water over here, and I'm going to apply that to the sheet. So we're doing the third technique now, which I've used several times on several thematic photo shoots. And you're going to just wipe the paper down with a generous coat of water. That will just saturate through on both sides. And now using just a dot of your burnt umber, make a slurry. Just enough to coat. Now you try to create this to the desired color that you would like, and then you're going to apply it now to your paper. As you can see, if you were to just apply it, the slurry, to dry paper, it's not going to spread out. So an application on wet, this is the wet on wet technique, will help you create a much more unified color. So that's going to pool in certain areas. But we're going to turn this over, and then we're going to do the other side as well. Doing the other side, a little bit of a crinkle over here, which I didn't particularly want in my paper, but we'll straighten that out shortly. I had found that the application of the burnt umber was really spot on. It actually was better than the coffee or tea technique, but it takes a little bit of practice to do this. Okay, so now that we got our 3 papers done, I'm going to let these dry. We're going to do something extra special. I put a sample piece of paper in here and left it in there for more than 2 minutes. I've also put a sample piece of paper in the tea bags and left it in there for more than 2 minutes. And I'm going to try the technique with the cold water, and we're going to see how dark we can make the burnt umber paper. Let's do this. You are now looking at our samples of paper under 3 different sources of light, all simultaneously. The first one is an incandescent bulb, the second one is a fluorescent bulb, and I also have natural light coming through the window. So I have 3 types of lights showing on these papers at the same exact time. Over here to the left is our A4 paper that we used as a test, and I also put a sheet over here on the right. This is the first historicals recreation project ever that I can say actually has a scent to it. I can smell the coffee coming off of the paper, which is quite delightful. Now let's look at our test samples we had done today. The first one was using the instant coffee, and here we had a 1 to 2 minute application, and then I had done a test sample with this over 2 minute application. This was a 2 to 4 minute application of the instant coffee. Now I really want to share with you about the middle one, was the tea bag application. Here again, this was a 1 to 2 minute application, and the smaller sample down below was a 2 to 4 minute application. What is quite interesting, if you wanted to do a thematic photo shoot and you wanted to use newspaper that was aged, I would highly recommend using the tea bag technique. It really looks like aged newspaper. And the one that I have used the most in most of my thematic photo shoots and prop making would be the burnt umber. Now, this was a one-time application. As we know, we turned the paper over. We had done it, and we turned the paper back over and did the application. Now, I had done the same type of technique now with 2 coats, with 4 coats, and with 6 coats laid out before you for your pleasure to figure out which one of these papers will work best with your project. I hope you like this tutorial, and if you like this, please like and subscribe or give me a thumbs up. Gothically yours, Professor M.